Taurus. It's a general reading for Taurus. So if you stumble across this, you might find some helpful, important, relevant messages that resonate with you, your current situation or circumstances. So let's get started. I hope you can hear me all right, because I understand there's been some audio issues, and I don't speak particularly loudly, but I'll try to project my voice so you can hear without having to strain your ears. Let's start. Oh, okay. So you started off with the Hermit, Taurus. I wonder if you've been having to spend some time alone, not even having to, needing to, more likely needing to. Because it could be that you need to spend this time alone in order to make some choices that are being either presented to you now, or choices that are going to be presented to you in the very near future. And I feel as if, Taurus, that a lot of this is to do with boundaries. This is why you either are at the moment in that hermit mode, that needing to be alone, needing to be by yourself, or you're going to be, or you're coming out of the other side of it. I feel more the latter, as if, Taurus, you're coming out the other side of spending a lot of time with yourself, going within, asking yourself maybe difficult questions, feeling the need to be less around other people as well. It's like returning to yourself. There's a need for you to return to you, in order for you to sort of silence the outside noise. Perhaps you've been recently going through, say, the dark night of the soul, or you've been going through a spiritual upgrade or spiritual awakening, where then what happens is that I heard a nice expression recently. Somebody said that God has had to force your ass down, make you be still, make you, sit with yourself, face to face, look at, where you are, what it is that you need to make decisions about. In this case, Taurus, it's about you having to be discerning with the Seven of Cups, which is about being able to decipher what's going to be beneficial for you and what isn't. Being able to understand that what is also what's being presented to you as a choice, as an option, might not be the right one, because sometimes the way things are presented to you isn't necessarily what is inside, which is all about the Seven of Cups, so that you have to be very discerning, and I think Taurus, that you need to make certain choices, and you're learning how to be more discerning. This is what you're doing or have done while you've been in Hermit, or as you are in this sort of it's not an imposed isolation, well, it is. It's kind of like God has imposed it on you. You've got to stay and you've got to be yourself, because there are things you need to be more focused on, and that's decisions that you're going to have to make, and choices, and to perhaps learn discernment. Perhaps you haven't been very discerning in the past, or your recent past, or for a good number of years. And also you have the Ten of Pentacles, which is, it could be that these decisions you're making are in relation to your home life, to your family life, very much linked to that your home family life will be affected by these choices that you make, and this is probably why you're having to be more discerning in this case. I feel it's also connected to your material world. You know, you need to apply more discernment to your who's around you, your family, even your friends group, more essentially your family, and also your material world. For some of you, you might be looking at your generational wealth. You know, you could be looking at what you're going to be leaving, or looking ahead and thinking about what you're going to be able to leave your family. For some of you, you could be looking at generational wealth and how you're to create that. Some of you could be looking at inheritances as well. Some of you, I'm getting, might have elderly parents that you might be having to consider being kind of closer to, because they're aging, they're getting older, and they might be needing your support more. I'm getting maybe you're having to re-juggle your life or your career around being able to spend more time with your old family relatives, maybe for some of you, Taurus. But at the same time, I feel as if, because you have the Eight of Pentacles as well, you have the Eight of Pentacles, which is suggesting that you're being very diligent about this, about understanding discernment and why you have to do this, and be more emotionally intelligent as well about, in relation to choices. But you're not just being sort of diligently hermiting or coming through the tail end of going within, working, that means working on yourself. I feel as if you're also working, making work around you, making your work, whatever that is, whatever career you may be in, working your work around working on yourself and creating a balance between you doing your inner work and still participating in the things we all need to do to earn a crust. So with the Nine of Cups, this having gone within, or if you're still in that process, spending time getting back to you, connecting with yourself, even some soul searching, it could be that you're understanding it's not that bad a place to be. Perhaps you're seeing that your life is, can be more filling once you have spent this period of time with yourself, and how through being more discerning, thinking about not just yourself but thinking about other people in your life who you have an impact on, how this could create a sort of more fulfilling kind of ambience for you and other people, Taurus. Create better vibes between you, not just feeling better about yourself ultimately, but when you're connecting with the outside world and other people, your say dealings with them could change. Is most likely to change, especially if you've going through dark night of the soul, or you've had a spiritual kind of awakening, spiritual upgrade, and you know, that is going to be not just have an effect on you and how you perceive things and how you choose and make choices, but it will also affect, it will have like a ripple effect. So yes, and the Page of Wands. So part of this Page of Wands is making me feel as if you're sort of starting, because it's not the King or the Knight or Queen of Wands, it's the kind of, you know, it's the beginning of it's the lower rank of the court cards. So the Page is sort of like almost a novice, and you know, starting out with sometimes just a slightly different approach. High Priestess. So, you know, the Page of Wands is feeling action oriented. The Page of Wands is action oriented, but much slower paced than, say, the King and the Queen, or the Knight of Wands, or Staves. So I feel like the Page is a sort of almost like a semi-stasis, where, you know, going through some spiritual awakening, you know, having this time to spend alone, learning maybe a little bit about yourself, and having to look at choices ahead of you, choices in the now. You know, the Page has the, let's say, is action oriented, you know, does sort of, has the energy of the fire energy of it wanting to, you know, implicate, you know, the what do I mean? Implicate the learnings or the things that you may learn, and then want to proceed with, forwards with. Tentative, but still action oriented. So I feel like, Taurus, that you may slow down a little bit as well. You know, maybe this is one of the things you've encountered, where you're at with your making, you know, having to make choices. Some of them could be difficult, or even life-changing. Now, because of this, you know, this one's energy, I feel as if that you are being, wanting to, excuse me, I lost my thread there. I feel as if you are slowly getting to grips with understanding and knowing what it is you want to do and how you want to proceed forwards. But not, it's like, it's not going to be all at once, you know, you're not going to be, I feel as if you're slowing down a little bit, or you've taken time to slow down. You have to when you get the Hermit energy here, the centre of your spirit, it is all about going within, so you do have to take a back seat. And the Page of Wands to me is a little bit like, after, to me it's kind of like after being in the, almost the, you know, the train crash, almost like it makes sense to me to come after the Tower, because you don't, after things and periods of time and changes and maybe facing personal difficulties, you don't literally bounce back, like you don't bounce back, you know, you get up and start moving forwards, but not at great speed, not a breakneck speed, because you can't, because after you've been put, or feel that you had to be in you know, quiet space, sort of isolation, not isolation, full isolation, but wanting to go within, which requires you to be with yourself. After that, when you've been looking around and then asking yourself questions, important questions, having to realise that discernment is key. Effects that these choices are going to have on others, effects that it's going to have on your work life as well, for example, and affect you as a person. You implicate maybe these new ideas or new ways of being. You implicate them slowly, not suddenly. Because after being in hermit mode, one tends to reintegrate, if you like, almost tentatively. Page 1 is the most tentative, the tentative action oriented. The ones is action, movement, inspiration, ideas, implicating all these ideas into the real. So the page isn't quick at doing that. But with the High Priestess, Taurus, you're trusting your intuition more. You're also seemingly balancing out your shadow side. Perhaps this is the part of the hermit process for you that you've been aware of or been drawn to attention. Your dark and your light, integrating your light side and your dark side. We all have. Some people would describe that, and you can interpret that as your masculine and feminine side. You can interpret this as the High Priestess balancing your dark and light side. I was associate the High Priestess with Persephone, mythological woman, if you like, who had to do just that. She fell in love with Hades, or Hades fell in love with her, or both, I don't know, vice versa. And which would have meant she would have had to live in Hades, and she was not from Hades, and her mother tried to convince her that it was a bad idea. And the pomegranate is associated with her. I believe her mother gave her, or she had to take pomegranates to Hades, or her mother gave her pomegranates to take with her as a kind of reminder, because she ended up, so it compromised. So Persephone in Hades, she agreed to spend 6 months of the year in Hades, with Hades, which is another word for hell, with him. And as long as she was allowed to have 6 months of the year living in the light, living with, amongst her people, and that was the deal. So I'll have to research this again, but I believe that Persephone's mother had sort of armed her with pomegranates as a kind of a farewell for 6 months or something like that. But it's representative of Persephone, and she having to live in the dark and the light is a kind of metaphor for her having to understand her dark, accept and embrace the darkness and the light. Half and half, 6 months Hades and 6 months not. So you interpret that as you will, Taurus, how it might be relevant to you. But balance is being achieved. You may have changed, Taurus, you may have changed location, you may have changed even countries, you may have changed up quite a lot of things in your life that almost feels alien, as if you are in another realm or a different place, or you could physically be in a different place. But I feel as if it's more to do with your state of mind, that you feel mentally or emotionally, spiritually in a different place. Now you could be leaving people out of this process while you're going through this process, or if you're just coming out the other side of this process of going within, and you could be, as a result, leaving certain people out of this equation, not wanting to make a thing of it. Or you could have also been left out. There's a possibility, Taurus, that you have been left out of something, and that could have been the catalyst, by being left out, pushed out with the Five of Pentacles, that made you go there, ask yourself questions. Even, do I really belong here? That could be one of the questions that you've had to ask yourself, Taurus. Do I belong here? Do I fit here? If I don't, what am I going to do? It can be, Taurus, that you are in a different place and you're adapting, slowly adapting to that. Physically a different place, and you're having to adapt to that new environment, for example, and you're having to be discerning because it's all new. And for some of you, it could be literally that. The world, because your world is changing. You're seeing that through making these discerning choices, with the sort of game plan, that it's going to have a positive effect on you and everyone else, or everyone else who's important to you. I mean, not everyone else. I mean, anyone who it will affect. That your world will be also, as a result, change. As a byproduct, that will happen. And you're also, Taurus, most likely during this time, if you're coming, as I said, out of the other side of going within, assessing how hard it is to do, process and be in this place, how hard you've worked on yourself. So congratulations, Taurus, if you have really been working on yourself, and you're aware that you have. And sometimes, often, when you're in this place and you find yourself in solitude, or you put yourself there to just shut out the noise and focus on what's happening here. This is important. You ask yourself, you tell yourself, actually, I'm important enough to sit down with me, with God, and be real with myself, be real with oneself, I should say. And it is work. It isn't easy. It is work. It feels like this. And you can also, with the Nine of Staves, question, the question crops up a lot. Why am I doing this? It feels really difficult. It feels like a struggle. Why am I doing this? Because while you're there and hermiting, you don't know why. You don't necessarily know why. All you know is it's just where you are right now. You don't know the outcome. You don't know where this is going to lead you. That question pops up. Why am I doing this? This feels uncomfortable. So why am I doing it? But the discomfort is often necessary. Cool. So Taurus, Ten of Swords. I feel as if somewhere along the line, or the journey here of you hermiting, you see that with the glaze on it, you may have felt quite defeated. You may have felt like you know, I'm in this place now, I'm having to withdraw, pull maybe my energy, my resources, myself, everything away from certain people, places, things, and you can feel defeated. Like, it can feel lonely, especially if Taurus, you're used to being around a lot of people. You have a busy work life or family life, and you're it's normal for you to be around a lot of people for lengthy periods of time during the day, during the week, and then you're pulling back and going within, and the actual impact that has on a person, the 30 conversations you might have had a day become one or two, the 20 places you might have visited that day, or the or the, you get what I'm saying, suddenly those, you're not doing that, you're suddenly maybe only going to one place in a day, and for very brief moments. I mean, I'm saying this from experience because obviously I've been here, having gone through various periods where I've had to do this too. So, and I noticed exactly how that felt, that it's the polarity and the sense of, you feel alone, more alone, if you've been used to being around a lot of people for lengthy amounts of time, regularly, throughout your week, busy life, all that, interacting with many people, maybe having 2 or 3 jobs, maybe having a full packed diary, and then from that to sitting with yourself. It's a huge contrast, and it can make you feel like literally on a boat at sea, alone. and that's difficult to navigate, because you don't think, you wonder if you'll ever get out of that boat on your own at sea with no one around, and at night there's no lights. You can't get through that, and then you've got to deal with what the sea is going to be doing that particular day. And when you get back to shore, I hope you are, but while you're out there, it feels like no man's land. But during that time, I don't know if you've seen the film, oh damn it, what's it called? I wish I could remember the title. I'm rather bad at remembering film titles. It's about a boy who gets cast away at sea in a boat, and it's a one word. It's not White Tiger, is it? No, it's not. And he's in a boat with a tiger at sea, and he doesn't know to begin with there's a tiger under some tarpaulin, and the whole film is based on that boy, or teenage boy, in a boat at sea with a tiger. If you haven't seen it, watch it, and I really, if I can remember the title, I'll put it down there, so you'll be able to watch it. Anyway, that's how it can feel when you're in hermit mode. You have to go within, and you've got to sort through shit, and you've got to ask yourself certain questions, and knowing that you've still got to live every day and make decisions every day. You're not going to be just sitting there like a zombie doing nothing. You're still going to be living your life to an extent, but and then having to make choices, and then realising that actually the choices I've got to make while I'm here like this are mine for the taking, and I've got to be careful about them. Also, when you hermit, you often in a place where you don't want anyone else's opinions, because it feels disruptive, and it gets, it's kind of like I'm having to be in hermit mode, I'm having to go within, and I don't necessarily appreciate your just going to say clackety, because it can sound like that, your banter or your input. So still trying to remember the name of that film. Let's see. Oh, Taurus. So I feel like once you've been through this and you're struggling through it, and you're coming out, you will be coming out the other side, because you can't possibly stay in that boat at sea forever. It's not going to happen. You're going to find, this 10 of Cups. You had 9 of Cups already, but you're going to have this 10 of Cups. You're going to have this, fulfilling life. You're going to have the things you've been possibly wishing for. Bearing in mind that happiness is transient. So, this does remind us that happiness is a transient thing. It's not a destination. You do this, you do that, you do this, you tick that box, you've done that, and then you're suddenly happy, and now that's led you to happiness, and you're going to be forever happy. No. It doesn't work like that. What it means is that you're going to be happier, you're going to feel happier, and have more of the things you want, and feel happier once you've sat your ass down for a minute. Once you've been through this hermit, going within, being real with yourself, making choices out of discernment, not out of anyone else's penny's worth or any kind of sense of duty, responsibility bullshit. It's choices that are going to be, better for you, because at the end of the day, the most important person in your life is, guess who? You, right? And if you start with you, as you probably know, Taurus, this isn't a sermon, a lecture. You know this already. The most important person in your life is you. The most important relationship you're going to have in your life is with you. Because nobody ever knows anybody fully anyway. It's not possible. Okay? You can get to know someone very well. You can learn somebody. You can be very close to a person, but you will never know them completely, 100%ly. But you can know yourself as near as damn it to 100% if you work on yourself. And that's the place everyone wants to be. It's to know yourself, know who you are, what makes you tick. And so many of us race through the world, never giving ourselves a second moment. We're too busy, we're too occupied, we're too much in motion, doing this, and we're using a distraction here, so we don't actually have to spend time with ourselves. Because, isn't it more fun being with other people? Isn't it more distracting doing this or this? Because being with yourself and looking at yourself and sitting with yourself and being real with yourself is challenging. And anyone who's done this knows this. And I think, Taurus, you know this. But I feel that you've been really brave, and you kind of gone, yeah, I know this, and because of it, as a result of this, I now know myself so much better, so I am able to make more discerning choices. I am able to understand the reason I, might want to, maybe close the door on some things, maybe cut some people out, maybe leave, not involve certain people into my affairs, etc., etc. That, which is why, subconsciously you know this, but maybe consciously you don't know this, or you're beginning to consciously understand this. At this stage, Taurus, I think you're consciously beginning to understand why you've had to be in this, self-reflective place, and why you've had to come out, sort of like you're slowly emerging, a bit like a tortoise. But you're doing so well, and I feel as if there's also, I wonder, let's see, if there's people you need to, your cards just popped up, Hierophant. So I'm wondering if that's again, as a sort of sign to say that you are actually getting back to you. You know, you're going to complete this journey and you're going to end up getting back to you. You're going to end up feeling much more stable within yourself. You're going to understand even funny things about yourself as well, things that maybe you hadn't really noticed because you hadn't been able to focus or understand, things that you were just taking for granted about yourself as well. And maybe things that you're going to note, that you're noticing right now about yourself, Taurus, that is a surprise, you know. Is it Forrest Gump? Life's a box of chocolates. She said, mother says, life's a box of chocolates, Forrest. You never know what you're going to get. And he quotes that a lot, I think, in the film. It's his kind of main kind of quote that he uses, you know, throughout that film. Maybe not throughout, but he says that a few times. But it's a kind of truism. And it's lovely because you go within and you start noticing things, or you face things that you don't want to face about yourself. And then, especially, you know, if you've got the High Priestess facing your light and dark, your shadow and your light side, and you may notice something in your, you know, about your light side that you didn't know before that you like, you know, oh, you know, that's my light side. I like that characteristic about myself. And then your dark side, when you're, you know, exploring that, you might notice some pretty unpleasant things about, you know, that you might have been sweeping under the rug because you didn't really want to sort of say, oh gosh, you know, actually I can be a real procrastinating arsehole sometimes. You know, I can be a really, or I can be a very, I can be erratic, or, you know, one can be, I shouldn't use the word I'm saying one can be, or one can be a little bit greedy, or, you know, there's all these sort of shadows that it's okay because we're both light and dark. All of us are made up of the light and the dark. I mean, you know, universe, you know, night and day, black and white. It's not rocket science. So, but it's often that one goes through life not wanting to look at the shadow side, because the shadow side is the can of worms, the Pandora's box. You know, that, oh, yeah, I just seen something horrible about myself, or I don't want to, and that's really not going to help. You know, it's a case of getting, you know, the High Priestess as well. You know, it's the rough. Life is about the rough and the smooth. You expect. You know, so I'm thinking about the theatre. The symbol that represents theatre, you know, is the masks, comedy and tragedy. You can't have one without the other. Impossible. Even with colours, you know, if you look at the colour spectrum and how they oppose each other as well, and how they have to work, you know, they have to work with each other as opposing colours. Against you, you could say against you, but no, because also, and if you look at the, you know, constellations as well, you know, each constellation has its opposite. Anyway, I'm rambling off on a tangent now. So I want to ask Taurus if there's some other things you need to know. But doing well. And I feel like things haven't been that easy for you in the last year. I'm feeling in particular in the last year, for many of you, things just haven't been easy, and you've had ups and downs, and you've had changes, and you've had even changes in where you're living, even changes in your jobs, your work, people you work with. But you've had to go through it, and it could have felt incredibly lonely. And I feel you're going through this, Taurus, but you're definitely coming out the other side. I feel that. You know, life is a rocky road. can be, not always. It was never plain sailing, that's for sure. I am organic. Yeah, it's an organic process. I feel as if you're aware that this is an organic process, that you're not forcing it, because it's also got its own little time scale. You can't be, and if it's healing that you're doing, obviously the hermit is an ideal, you know, to heal things as well. Wounds, old past wounds, things like that. They crop up when you go within. You become aware of all your past trauma and things that have really hurt you and how it's affected you, and that's your dark side. You know, you might discover that you have certain behavioural patterns, for example, that you don't like, and then you can join the dots and realise, oh, the reason I do this, whatever it is, one, you know, say for example, you have a habit or you have an eating disorder, for example, and you can say, oh, why? I know because of this happened, this impacted this, I remember, and then you join the dots. You know, that's one example. Or you could be suffering PTSD or not realise that perhaps you have, you know, a nervous anxiety or disorder, or you know, you know, PTSD, have PTSD, chronic CPTSD, chronic PTSD, and then you can connect the dots and say, ah, now I didn't ever want to look at this, but I'm now seeing the reason I had this, and then you have to then revisit those traumas. And revisiting trauma, Taurus, as you know, because I know a few Taurus who've been through this and have talked to me about them having to revisit their trauma. And Taurus, you like, you know, comfortable life, you do, and why not? Because it suits you. But, you know, it's difficult to reconcile oneself. It's difficult for you. I'm talking to you, Taurus, but general speaking, oneself. Reconciling oneself with personal trauma in your history, in your back catalogue, you know, it's not easy, because you have to revisit those events, those things that happened, that you probably, in many cases, as humans or as souls living the human experience, you know, go back to revisit and look at them again squarely in the face and say, you know, and that can make you feel the trauma again, not on the same level, clearly not on the same level, but going back to revisit, and it can bring up those sort of emotions that you may have experienced, you know, at that particular time when this particular trauma happened, if that makes any sense. So, you know, it's brave, Taurus, and I feel as if by doing this, you know, facing these things, and many of you do, many of us are Taurus, many of you, as I said, I know few Taurus individuals who have been through their fair share of trauma, and you know, it's hard to manage, and there are unhealthy coping mechanisms, of course, and then there are healthy. And I think being in the hermit here, going through this, it will also make you recognise the way you manage these, the way, do you have unhealthy coping mechanisms, or can you find coping mechanisms which are healthier? You know, for example, I know someone, I won't mention any names, who dealt with their PTSD and trauma by drinking heavily, and also, you know, let's say fair amount of drug taking, and by heavy drinking, and that all that was doing was masking, you know, it was putting a plaster on it. It was masking the symptom. You know, it was like feeling ill, going to the doctor, and they give you a pill to pop. Oh, that will do it. No, it won't do it. It will just mask the symptoms. It won't be the cure. It won't be a remedy. It's just a kind of plaster to put on it in the meantime. And that's sort of what happens when you go and use unhealthy coping mechanisms. You're not solving anything. You just I know a few alcoholics. Across my over my lifetime, I've met many alcoholics that I've been close to, or you know, and I see I've recognised their reason for heavy drinking has been linked to their usually childhood trauma, and by facing these things, being in home mode, you're also, most likely, Taurus, you've been having to ask yourself about coping mechanisms too. And then that's another dot you joined, and then it can become a melting pot of what seems like quite a lot to deal with. But because you're getting through it, it means you're dealing with it. But you are hopeful, and you are enduring. And these are, the best ingredients you can have right now. Organic, seeing it as a process, unfolding. You've got endurance and you've got hope. So this is all, you've got it all on your side. All on your side. But the other thing I'd suggest, Taurus, is that you can reach out if you're feeling the need to speak to somebody. You can do that, but you may feel that you're in a place where you're not sure if that would be of any help to you right now. You might not feel that you want to even talk about anything internally with anybody externally, but you're witnessing the present moment. I think you're probably, Taurus, understanding that being in the present and focusing as hard as you can on living in the present, being more present and living in the present moment more, not allowing yourself to look too far down the road, which can deter you from focusing on you. If you're going through that thing where you're having to go within, then looking too far ahead is actually going to be a distraction while you're healing, going through it. Because I feel like you have had this sense of being in a persistent darkness, knowing also, but there's element of hope here too. And from time to time, Taurus, I'm feeling as if even though you're on a relatively even keel for most of the time, there are moments when you feel a little bit, sort of distracted, demolished, and back in in a dark place again. There's swings and roundabouts, and that's the thing about healing. It's not it's like that. You have moments where you feel you move forward. It's like learning a language. You suddenly feel as if you can be fluent in. You reach a certain level where you feel like you've got more vocabulary. You suddenly grammar's getting better, and you feel like, oh, I really got my head around this now. Only to find that there's another step you have to go up, and then you have to learn, and that's how it kind of goes in levels. And then times when you feel like you've just taken a step back, that expression about, oh, I feel like you hear people saying things like, yeah, but I feel like I'm always taking like 10 steps forward and then like 20 steps back. I know, 2 steps forward and 1 step back in some cases, but I'm not getting anywhere. And that's about learning. When you're learning, it's a learning curve. It means you feel like you're making progress, and suddenly you realise, actually, I haven't made as much progress as I thought I had, because at that time it feels like massive progress, and then maybe a day later or a couple of days later you realise that progress is just only got you to that level, as opposed to that's That's when you feel like, oh, my healing journey or my hermit having to go within, oh, it's all, I don't need to do that anymore. I've done that. You know, things are feeling better for me. But and then you're surprised when you realise you have to do more. Or you have to spend more time healing, or more time going within, or more time having to be discerning, more time, you know, questioning this, looking at that, embracing your dark side, balancing your dark and light sides, your masculine feminine energy too, for example. And it's a constant. It's not a, oh, I've done it, I've succeeded, I finished it. I think healing is a process, and it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. It doesn't just, you're not suddenly perfectly fine. You know, especially if you had a lot of trauma in your life, you know, I suppose the older you are as well, the more you've got your kind of baggage, you know, to unpack, and it's more to get through. You can feel like wading through treacle. That's how I always envision it. Like you're literally wading through, you know, a river of molasses, and thinking, you know, and your welly boots are full of it too, and you're going, oh God, do I have to? You know, am I ever going to get beyond here? Am I ever going to do this? And you do. You know, especially if you adjust your mindset and you've got hope and you feel like, and you know you're enduring and you know it's a process. Yeah, you do. And forgiveness. In your forgiveness, you find peace. So you need to, and I'm feeling this is a bit related to, also related to you, that you need to forgive yourself first. It's like love yourself first, forgive yourself first, because if you can forgive yourself, and I feel this is where you're at, Taurus, that you've also got to a place where you're actually, the part of your journey you're at is a forgiveness thing. You know, you've looked at this and that. I think you're being now confronted with forgiveness. What does it mean? You know, what does it mean? Well, if you forgive yourself first, because you are the most important person in your life, remember, if you forgive yourself first for the things you've done, because we've all done shitty crap, we've all done things that we wish we hadn't done. Every single one of us has done things either to ourselves, self-harm, things that have not helped ourselves, or to other people. Of course we have. I know I've done some things that I can look back. I don't regret necessarily doing. I don't think that's a useful word. That I can look back on and say, you can't regret anything, because whatever you've done is usually contributed to your healing and to your, you know, makes you who you are today. So you can't really hang on that word regret. I think it's a bit negative and pointless. So you can say, well, look, I did, okay, I'm not using the word regret, I wish I'd done something differently, you know, or I could have done that differently. Don't, because regret makes you just, it just makes it it makes it sound worse, and it makes it feel worse if you use the word regret. I mean, go and listen to some Edith Piaf. She has the most famous song, Je ne regrette rien. I can't say it because I can't roll my Je ne regrette rien. So that was all about a woman standing up saying, no, I don't regret, I don't have regrets. But in the same, the irony was she kind of did, but she didn't want to use the word regret. Well, French people don't use it, they hate that word. The French hate that word. Like the Spanish hate the word sorry. But it's like that, I'm not going to dwell in, I'm not going to regret, because that's a label I'm pinning on myself. Regret, I regret, is you're already casting yourself in a kind of bad light. So don't do that. And another thing, that was it, I was thinking Frank Sinatra, yeah. Regrets I've a few, too few to mention. That would be my way. Did you know, incidentally, that's the most popular funeral song. Cheesy. But yeah. And that lyric is great, because it's saying, regrets I've had a few, too few to mention. That undoes the spell. You know, regrets I've had a few. We all have. Too few to mention, which is bringing it back up again and saying, well, I don't talk about them. I don't talk about them because I know what they are. And, you know, they haven't really killed me. You know, they might have affected my life, and obviously they would do, but they haven't actually, you know, finished me. So, oh yeah, and interesting, both Sagittarius. Yeah, that's right. Frank is, and Edith. So, be optimistic. That's coming through. Be optimistic about, you know, your healing journey. Be optimistic about looking at things you don't want to look at, you know, dark stuff you've done that you can ask yourself, why did I do that? You know, how many of us have sat there on our own of an evening or something often and just gone, oh damn it, why? And you know, there's a reason behind it. But you have to not paint yourself so black. So, you know, and also stupid things. They're not necessarily, you know, they're bad things, yet negative things we do. I won't say bad, that's another pointless word. Things we've done that haven't been so good for our higher selves or for anyone else. And they're stupid things. You know, you were all capable of doing stupid things, you know, because we're not being mindful, or because we're not, you know, operating from our higher selves. Yeah, of course. So, you know, get a perspective, check on that one. And I need to see what kind of stone and crystal could help you as well. Divine intervention. Yeah. Because you've got a lot of faith in yourself at the end of the day, Taurus. You are, you know, naturally, that comes to you pretty naturally. You're quite ballsy. You know, you are the bull, Taurus the bull. And you are quite ballsy. You've got a lot of face, or a lot of, as they say in Spanish, Jenny mucho cara. So you have a lot of, you can have a lot of face about you. You know, you can be, I could say cheeky sometimes, a bit kind of like, you know, ballsy. You know, you're not, you're often able to be quite, you know, up in someone's face and be kind of, yeah, I want this, I'm gonna have it, I don't care, you know, I don't care who, you know, I don't care who's watching, I'll just do this, and I'm gonna have this, and I'm gonna, you know, there's a beautiful energy actually, Taurus. It's really sweet. It's almost childlike, you know. It's kind of like running into the playground, going. You'd be the one running through as a child, running through the playground, seeing, you know, a brand new sort of apparatus to play on, and you'd be like, I'm going there first, and I'm going to get there first, and I don't care about you lot. There's kind of Taurus energy when it's, you know, cute. So, you know, that kind of, that Taurus energy, that is the thing that always pulls you through. And you're funny too. You've got a natural gift of humour. Not everyone gets it, because it's your own special, unique little brand of humour, but it's good. And that is also going to get you through this difficulty if you're having a bit of a iffy time. I'm dying to know what crystal stone could be helpful for you. I found it could be a sign. I found a snowflake. What's this? A snow. Oh, what is it? What's the snowflake? A gate? Snowy. Anyway, I'm gonna find and look up that, because I didn't even know I had it. It's just turned up today, so that could be a sign. Yeah, endings and beginnings. The old must be released, so then the new can enter. So that's what I feel is going on with you, Taurus. You kind of are. You are just sort of also doing a bit of a chucking out of, you know, things you don't need. And that could, you know, on all levels. I'm not talking about just the physical. I'm talking about, you know, a big old inner outer detox. Yeah, because you are going through this transformation, and the change right now is going to ultimately bring you great blessings. So you got to just believe. You just got to have faith. And, you know, you've got to be looking after yourself. Remember who is, you know, you are the most important person in your life. And nobody's going to save you. So, let me see if I can find this. It's snow, what is it called? It's in a gate, it might be in a gate, snow. zebra gate. It wouldn't be that. Oh, damn it. Let's have a look. God, it's suddenly really warm. I might have to. It's not. I'm going to open the window. Excuse me a minute. Oh, breathe. Right, yeah. So. Damn it, I know it's here, but I can't seem to locate it, so it can't be the one. Oh, it's an obsidian. It could be a snowflake obsidian, because it's an obsidian and it has this lovely sort of like snowflake effect in it, which is really pretty. Yeah, mineralogy, volcanic, glass. So it's a resolution. It's also a rescue remedy for shock, any traumas and blockages. So trauma related to or traumatic, it could be blockages, traumas that you past trauma that you need to unblock, and helps you integrate your dark side with your light side. So there we are. Activates untapped abilities too and eases any pain, tension or constriction of the vessels, enhancing blood and enhancing blood flow and any wound healing. That could be inner wounding, outer wounding, you never know. And probably, so yeah, untapped abilities too. So it will help to integrate your dark side, light side if you're going through shadow work at the moment, which you most likely are. And I've come across that, but an opal, pistachio opal. Pistachio's interesting. I tried to get a pistachio ice cream today with my daughter. They didn't have any. We were both disappointed. Light green, common opal. Happiness. Enhances being happy and enjoying one's own life. And also helps sociability, talkative. And it makes it easier for you to exchange thoughts and feelings. Also boosts mobility and good for the liver and gallbladder and helps with migraines. And I know a lot of Taurus, well, I would say a lot, I know a few Taurus and I know a couple of them definitely experience migraines, So that could help. And there we are. So do thumbs up if you've enjoyed this this video, if you found it helpful, and also a few thumbs up if you like. It does help circulate it, which means that if this was helpful to you, it would be helpful to other Taurus, you know, and that will help it, you know, to reach more people effectively. And if you want to comment, that's great, because then I can, you know, enjoy reading those. And yeah, for now, so take good care of yourself, and I really am wishing you the best and sending you love. Hello, kitten. Yeah, so bye for now.